And art has always been a part of my life. This is actually what I normally wear, I think, my mother tells me. I'm not dressed for painting. But I started drawing and painting and selling art at a young age. And I didn't really think I could make it into a career. And so I chose not to go to arts college and instead went to Stanford. Because I fancied myself maybe a diplomat or an English teacher. But when I graduated, I realized that art is what I most love doing, and how I best fit in to my other interests, such as science and traveling and seeing the world and other cultures. And wherever I go, I'm always interpreting what I'm seeing and what I'm learning through art. So I realized it kind of had to be something that stayed a part of my life. So when I was young, these are some drawings from my high school biology notes. And they usually turned out something like this, more so than more writing. And as I got older, this is a pituitary gland up here. I would illustrate them digitally. So this is a Photoshop illustration. And usually you just kind of scan in something and then illustrate manually, which actually does take a long time. You don't just put it in the computer and it appears, but it takes a lot of working with the mouse or with a brush. I worked for a while for a Huntington's disease group. Huntington's disease is a neurological and physical degenerative disease. You're born with it, it's genetic, and so people as they grow older start to change, and they act different and their bodies start to shape, kind of like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. So I was working illustrating for science papers that and reviews on this. So these are some from there. Biological, or kind of an anatomical illustration is interesting to me because to make an image such as this, or the following ones, you have to start with a lot of sketching and checking with scientists. So I would go over here and draw and then bring my sketches to the scientist and we would talk and say, oh, okay, we have these molecules, these are cholesterol molecules, and they look like this. And they're going to be going through this vessel. This is an artery in your body. And to get the size and the form right, there's many, many drafts. Of course, even in biological, what are these? STIs, sexually transmitted infections now, STDs when I was a kid. But these I did for Santa Cruz University in California, and they were doing a campaign for college students for sexual health. And so these are all postcards of the various STIs, and they wanted them to be really bright. So as college students were walking through the health center, they would pick them up and say, oh, I want to put this on my wall. So I did a lot of these kind of psychedelic things. But that's kind of the more fun side of science art. You get jobs like this, and I really enjoy that because it depends on who you're working for or what I'm trying to accomplish personally, or I view myself as the interpreter between scientists who are not always very articulate to the public about what they want to say. And I work at a place called Çatalhöyük, which is theoretically the first society, the first city to settle down and farm crops in the world, which is really interesting. When you go there, it's a little less interesting. It's a lot of clay pits like this. This is a house. You can kind of make out the walls here and different living spaces that everyone is brushing away. But it is a lot of dirt, and unless you know what you're looking at, it's less like Indiana Jones than the childhood me might have hoped. But still very interesting. So a lot of my work is recording artifacts, staring at a pot or a bone and recording it for publication in a science paper. But some of my work is interpretive. So I will look at a burial like this. This is a human. There's the head and the spinal cord, and it's got its legs tucked up. And some of the legs there were bound with rope or something of the sort. So there, you think, what is that? Why is that happening? And it's my job to draw why and what is going on. What is found in the burial? Are there pigments? Is there paint on anything? Or is there pottery with the body? Is there clothing? Is there no clothing? Are there animals buried with this person? Why? So again, there's a lot of talk between me and the archaeologists, and it's quite fun because there's about 80 archaeologists at this site, and you kind of take your drawing and go to the bone people. You say, well, what did you find with the skeleton? Oh, okay. Oh, you found some animals. Okay, off to the animal people. And what did you think? And then you go to the excavator, and they go, no, this was all wrong. So you have to balance everyone's ideas into one illustration. And it usually takes many, many tries. Here are some of the more interpretive things you find. I spend a long time, this man is being buried with a sheep. And they also found textile, cloth remnants with him. And his bones were painted red. He had red pigment all over him, which was kind of a ceremonial thing there, possibly. They're not quite sure, but it was common. So after many tries, we have to get the position right. How was he in, and bones kind of depress as the body goes away, so things change. So you have to reconstruct what positions these people were in, what was present. Over here there's some flint obsidian points that were around, and he had a flute, which maybe wasn't a flute, but it was a long bone with some holes cut in it and some red pigment. And really, what is that? Why was he buried with that thing in his hands? Since nobody really knows, or will ever know, because this happened 9,000 years ago, it's nice to have an illustration to go along with the musings of a scientist, to give a person who might read this their own chance to interpret. Well, what do I think? What do I think is going on? Paintings are kind of a mix of things I'm experiencing. So this one is kind of a scene from India that I was witnessing, walking along the river early in the morning. And these boys were just jumping and climbing up and jumping again. And they wanted me to take pictures because they wanted to make poses in the air. And this is, I just finished this last week, but this is kind of an illustration of how you do archaeological art. This is Turkey, and the older civilization and a newer civilization sprang up about 8,000 years ago. So this is that, and after about 5 different trials, it turns into this. And then it goes to textbook or whatnot, or conference. So the theme here is kind of science art and science theme, especially biological, what I'm interested in, what I like. But and I'm holding off a little more on personal art just because I don't have so much of it in Korea. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something or find some of it interesting. And I'll let you ask some questions if you'd like.